Okay, hello. I'm recording this video for people that are having problems with their Cub Cadets or whichever lawnmowers. I think some Craftsmen have them too, but it's the Kohler engine. I've heard people that have had similar problems to what I've had with mine, and it's a starting problem. The first thing people obviously think they need to do is charge the battery or get a new battery. Well, I found out the hard way that's not what you need to do. I did get a battery and I did buy a new starter for it. And actually the newer starter I had a gear reduction on it. It was a smaller gear, and actually that didn't even help with the problem. What I had to do is I had to turn on the hard spot. I had to turn the engine over a little bit more to get it past the hard spot, and then the starter would actually spin the engine around and start it. After doing some research, I found out that the Kohler engine, basically there's a couple of styles of engines, a lot of different horsepower engines, but I know in some of the information I was reading that on some of these engines you do have to adjust the valves periodically, I believe every 200 hours, and what happens is if the valves aren't adjusted, you get more lash in there, and then the valves will stay closed longer, which will cause the engine to start building compression early, and that'll cause it to be harder to crank over. But on some of these hydraulic lifters, which this engine does have at the 15 horsepower, there is a part inside called a compression release valve. And I did have this engine apart, and so I've got some other images here of things that I did with it. If I can bring them up here. Let me see here. Okay. Now that's the starter. I took the starter apart because the starter had seized up. And you can see a little part of the armature right here. It had frozen inside this bushing right here. And so what I ended up having to do is I had to unseize it from that, and I had to clean this bushing out, and then also I had to clean off the armature, get all the welding that it did from, the brush off of it, and then I reassembled it. And then afterwards we ended up having to tear apart the engine. This is the engine we had. It's a 15 horsepower overhead valve engine, and it's got the hydraulic lifters in it. So like I said, if you've got hydraulic, you may have this particular valve in there. And what the valve is, here's a side picture of the engine. You can see the voltage regulator there and the air cleaner, and this is the engine here. And what it has inside, that's the starter I tore apart, okay, is right here. It's the camshaft on the camshaft. If you look here, right at the very bottom, you see this part right here. It's a dog. That's what I call it anyway. When the engine spins up to, I believe, 750 RPMs, this dog will pop out, and it spins this little pin. I don't know if you can see that, but it's right here. There's a pin that pops out, and when this dog is held in, that pin sticks up, and it causes the exhaust valve to stay open a little bit longer, which that is what your compression release is, and that allows the starter to be able to turn the engine over. And what happens a lot is this spring right here, you can barely see it, it's so tiny. Believe me, it's about the size of a ballpoint pen spring. And this spring, it attaches around this pin right here on the camshaft, and then it hooks right on this edge right here. And on the one that was in there, this edge right here where it hooks over the dog was broken off on that spring. We replaced the spring. It was very cheap, only about $2. Tearing the engine apart, getting it out, we had to pull it off the mower. We had to take the deck off first and unhook all the belts, pull the PTO clutch out, and then we basically had to lift the engine and pull the last belt off to get that out. You flip the engine over upside down, pull the pulley off, and then all the bolts off the bottom of the engine, pull the cover off, and make sure your timing marks are lined up on your cam. There should be a dot on one of these gears that matches this cam and matches your crankshaft. There should be a dot that matches on each of them before you pull this out. And also make sure that you pull the lifters out before you pull this out also. And there is also a fuel pump that attaches, or I mean it comes in and it has a cam in here too. You also have to pull the fuel pump in order to get this cam gear out. Once you get it out, it's just a matter of slipping that spring over, reconnecting it here, and having it lean on the other side, the opposite side of the cam there, so it'll hold this dog in, and you're basically ready to go again. My son has been using his lawnmower and it works great, so I hope this helps you out. Good luck to everybody that's had this problem. I know what it's like. I've been through it, so good luck.